Well, Meghan Markle has opened up about Prince Harry's new life in LA, joining Ellen DeGeneres for her first interview since that Oprah tell.
This is a revelation Meghan Markle desperately hoped would never come to light. And shockingly, it doesn't originate from gossip columns, but from a former spouse, Trevor Engelson, the man who knew her intimately before royal fame. According to explosive reports from sources close to Meghan's ex-husband, Trevor has ended years of silence after reportedly receiving a private email from Meghan pleading with him to avoid discussing their past. His definitive response? An uncompromising refusal. The situation carries devastating implications for Meghan's carefully crafted image. Having maintained tight control over her pre-royal narrative for years, this breach in her defensive strategy comes at the worst possible moment, just as her post-royal ventures face mounting scrutiny. What makes this development particularly damaging is a source, not a scandal-hungry tabloid, but someone who shared her life during her Hollywood years, making his testimony impossible to dismiss as mere speculation. Industry observers note the timing couldn't be worse, with the Sussex's financial stability appearing increasingly precarious and their royal bridges seemingly burned. This unexpected challenge to Meghan's narrative control threatens to unravel years of carefully managed public perception, exposing vulnerabilities in the couple's ability to maintain their desired public image as they navigate their post-palace existence.
It was nice to see that she wasn't sort of dumping on the royals. It was nice to get an insight into their life.
Even just by being there, she's dumping on the royals. Anyway, I like her. I'm turning the corner. The interview is... I'm coming off a...
Because what truly terrifies Meghan isn't negative headlines. It's reality coming to light. The uncomfortable facts about possible surrogacy arrangements for children presented as her own. The inescapable history that resurfaces despite relentless efforts to rewrite it. Most damning of all, the undeniable trail of calculated image crafting, strategic deception, and ruthless personal branding that contradicts her carefully constructed public persona. This goes beyond typical celebrity gossip. We're seeing the collapse of a meticulously built facade. Every dismissed rumor, every suspicious timeline, every abruptly severed relationship now takes on new significance as the walls close and around narratives that never quite added up. The real crisis isn't about bad press, but about being exposed as the architect of her own mythology at precisely the moment her credibility matters most for securing future opportunities. What makes this particularly devastating is how these revelations strike at the foundation of everything she's sold the world: the authenticity, the victimhood, the curated origin story. When the truth contradicts the brand as completely, no amount of PR spin can repair the damage. We're witnessing not just a PR crisis, but an existential threat to the entire Sussex enterprise built on manipulating public perception.
A softer side of the Duchess there, huh?
You did.
Carl, what we're learning is, frankly, she's just like you and I. She's just like everybody. We talked about auditioning as a young actress, having a car that the key didn't work, so she had to crawl out of the back of the boot.
Behind Meghan Markle's polished image of maternal devotion, personal sacrifice, and noble public service lies a much more complicated reality, one she's fought desperately to keep hidden. For the first time, we're peeling back the layers to reveal inconvenient truths the Duchess would prefer remain buried. This wasn't just a routine communication between ex-spouses. According to those familiar with the correspondence, Meghan's email to Trevor Engelson reportedly carried an unmistakable tone of panic and attempted control. She ostensibly framed her plea as a simple request for privacy and closure regarding their shared history. However, multiple sources confirmed the message contained not-so-subtle threats of legal action should Engelson ever choose to discuss their marriage publicly. The subtext was clear. This was less about mutual respect between former partners and more about damage control. The aggressive undertones stand in stark contrast to Meghan's carefully cultivated image as a champion of transparency and women's empowerment. What emerges instead is a pattern of attempting to silence potential truth-tellers through intimidation tactics, a troubling contradiction for someone who built their brand on authenticity and speaking one's truth.
What she was trying to do here is be as relatable as anybody could be, just a young mom kind of making it work. So I think that was the very deliberate intent of the interview, and for the most part, with a big help, I think, from Ellen, she succeeded.
What reportedly disturbed Trevor most was a glaring double standard. Meghan, who has earned millions by publicly sharing her selective version of events through Netflix specials, high-profile interviews, and a forthcoming memoir, suddenly demanded silence from the one person who knew her authentic self, before the royal titles, before the designer wardrobe, before the carefully constructed public persona. But Trevor wouldn't comply. His defiance threatens more than just Meghan's reputation. It endangers the very foundation of a personal brand. As someone who witnessed Meghan's pre-royal years firsthand, Trevor possesses knowledge that extends far beyond embarrassing anecdotes. He lived through her Hollywood struggles, witnessed the calculated networking, and experienced the ambitious social climbing that predated her royal transformation. By breaking his silence, Trevor doesn't just risk exposing inconvenient truths. He threatens to dismantle the entire narrative Meghan has painstakingly crafted. His refusal to remain quiet cast doubt on every aspect of a carefully manufactured image, potentially revealing the stark contrast between the relatable humanitarian she portrays and the ambitious strategist he knew. This isn't merely about revisiting the past. It's about challenging the authenticity of everything built upon it.
Of irreconcilable differences, and so far the film management and production company owner has kept quiet about his ex-wife, refusing to comment on her marriage to Prince Harry and their split from the royal family. He's also now been remarried. Apparently, he remarried pretty immediately after this, just like Meghan did.
Critics suggest this is precisely why Meghan fears Trevor more than anyone else. It's not about lingering resentment from their divorce. It's about the fact that he possesses first-hand knowledge of her early tactics of manipulation, calculated ambition, and strategic social climbing. As one insider bluntly put it, Trevor knows where the bodies are buried. He was there before the reinvention. Now, let's address the glaring question that no one can ignore. 4 years, doubts have surrounded Meghan's pregnancies, fueled by odd video footage, inconsistent public appearances, and the infamous folding baby bump moment that went viral. Until now, these were dismissed as tabloid gossip. But Trevor's reported response to her email has reignited suspicions. Sources claim he directly referenced her habit of deception and talent for staging reality, sparking fresh speculation. The biggest question now, was surrogacy part of the equation? And if so, why has it been so aggressively concealed? What began as whispered rumors may now be inching closer to the surface, and if proven true, it could unravel the carefully crafted narrative Meghan has spent years protecting.
Interesting. Again, I'm hesitant to believe this, but let's see what they're saying, and we'll all talk at the end. All right, so here we go. He has refused to comment on this, but that might be about to change. As royal author Neil Sean, author of A to Z of Harry and Meghan, claims Trevor has had numerous offers to reveal all on what Meghan is really like.
Was his secrecy driven by personal embarrassment, or something more troubling, like upholding a royal image that doesn't allow for such transparency? Many overlook the fact that Trevor was completely caught off guard by their divorce. According to accounts, Meghan abruptly mailed back her wedding ring and severed all contact without explanation. But what if there was a more calculated reason behind it? Some analysts speculate that Meghan had already envisioned her rise to royalty, and Trevor, an ordinary Hollywood producer, no longer aligned with that ambition. Their marriage became expendable. Looking back, her actions appear less like an emotional split and more like a strategic reboot. Now, after years of silence, Trevor seemed prepared to speak out, potentially exposing the truth behind a carefully constructed fairy tale. And Trevor isn't the only one who witnessed Meghan's calculated maneuvers. Insiders familiar with Los Angeles' elite social circles reveal that Meghan approached every relationship with precision. She frequented high-profile yacht parties, cultivated connections with wealthy investors, and strategically positioned herself in front of the right cameras. Every move was deliberate, designed to elevate her status and shape her public persona. Nothing was left to chance. Every interaction served a purpose in building her brand.
A book or give an interview about his failed marriage to Meghan, it could prove to be fatal to her hopes of relaunching her career. Neil, who has met Trevor, told OK Magazine, many agents have offered him big deals and big money when Meghan was at the height of her fame. I would think he will take stock and look at all the options.
A former associate recently revealed to British media, her success was never accidental, every step was meticulously planned. With Trevor's unexpected defiance, other figures from Meghan's past are reportedly gaining confidence to share their own accounts, suggesting this could mark just the start of a public image deterioration. When Trevor Engelson allegedly disregarded Meghan's request to avoid discussing their history, the move carried significance beyond personal boundaries. His actions represented a symbolic break from the carefully managed persona she spent years cultivating. His silence speaks volumes, particularly amidst growing skepticism about Meghan's pregnancies, where online commentators have consistently raised doubts about the legitimacy of her maternity photos. What was once dismissed as baseless internet conspiracy, theories about surrogacy arrangements for Archie or Lilibet, has now entered mainstream discourse, fueled by former insiders like Trevor refusing to corroborate her version of events. This development raises critical questions. If there's nothing to conceal, why avoid transparency? Why demand silence if the facts would support your position? Those familiar with Trevor's perspective have consistently suggested that Meghan's path to prominence wasn't the natural progression she portrays. Multiple sources indicate her social ascension involved calculated networking and strategic positioning at exclusive events, contradicting the serendipitous narrative she's promoted. As more individuals from her pre-royal life consider speaking out, the discrepancy between her public image and private reality appears increasingly difficult to maintain.
Deteriorate after Meghan landed a starring role in the hit legal series Suits. The actress spent much of her time filming in Toronto, while Trevor remained in LA. Just over 2 years after their wedding, Meghan filed for a no-fault divorce. So she filed
according to multiple sources. During their marriage, Meghan was intensely focused on crafting her public persona, meticulously controlling every photograph, every public appearance, and leveraging Trevor's industry connections to advance her own career. A former co-worker allegedly characterized her as ruthlessly strategic, claiming that Meghan viewed relationships not as personal connections, but as professional opportunities. Initially, Trevor reportedly played along, but over time, he allegedly grew weary of being used as a pawn in her calculated rise. His current silence speaks volumes, not out of lingering affection, but possibly out of frustration. Why protect someone who treated people as disposable tools in her ascent? Now, by refusing to support Meghan's narrative, Trevor has inadvertently revived long-standing Hollywood rumors that Meghan Markle was never the romantic ideal she projected, but rather a relentless social opportunist who prioritized status over authenticity. Accounts dating back to 2011 suggest Meghan was a fixture at every high-profile industry event, engaging in strategic flirtations with executives and habitually name-dropping to elevate her profile. The pattern was clear. Every interaction served a purpose. Every alliance was a step up the ladder. What some once dismissed as envy-fueled gossip now appears increasingly credible, painting a far less flattering portrait of the woman who would later present herself as a victim of circumstance rather than the architect of her own ambition.
He wrote, to the producers, bemusement, Meghan was keen to set up her permanent home in Toronto rather than commute like all the other actors from Los Angeles. As a result, Neil believes a book written by Trevor could go into detail about how ruthless and ambitious Meghan was. He said,
many claim Meghan used Trevor's professional network while minimizing his significance in her rise to fame. Now, his refusal to engage may be a silent stand against being written out of a carefully edited narrative, a final reclaiming of dignity after years of being sidelined. Her sudden attempt to contact him after years of silence appears less like reconciliation and more like crisis management. Why would Meghan, after all this time, allegedly send Trevor a direct plea to stay out of her affairs? Because he holds the one thing she can't control, the truth. Trevor witnessed Meghan's pre-royal reality, before the palace-approved fairy tale, before the polished PR campaigns, before the lucrative media deals. He knew the unfiltered version of Meghan, the one that existed when the spotlight was turned off. His knowledge makes him uniquely dangerous to her carefully constructed image. This isn't about nostalgia, it's about containment. And his continued silence isn't compliance, it's a ticking time bomb.
2019, a year after Meghan married Harry. If Trevor does decide to speak out on his failed marriage to Meghan, it could prove a fatal blow to already waning popularity. And she's still set to launch her Instagram, TIG, yada, yada, yada. Look, I'm going to be honest.
If Trevor ever decided to break his silence, the consequences wouldn't just rattle the Sussex brand. They could completely dismantle it. His refusal to comply with her alleged plea for discretion is telling. He isn't launching an attack, but his lack of cooperation means he's no longer shielding her. And that is what terrifies Meghan the most. This entire situation, Meghan's reported outreach to Trevor, the escalating rumors about surrogacy, and her failure to fully suppress skeptics, reveals a woman losing her grip on the narrative. Once a master of media spin, Meghan now appears to be desperately trying to contain stories that are slipping beyond her control. Trevor Engelson's silent rejection of her request isn't just a personal snub, it's a turning point. His inaction speaks louder than words, signaling that the carefully constructed walls around Meghan's past may finally be cracking. And if they crumble completely, the fallout could be irreparable.
That's pretty scummy to do. That's like something Harry would do. That's something Harry's done, right? Well, it's about his whole family, even worse than just a bad ex. He went and talked about his whole family and all the drama. This guy has said nothing up to this point. This guy's got money. This guy's apparently moved on and happy.
It represents the slow collapse of the carefully crafted persona she spent years constructing. For someone who built a brand on meticulous image management, losing control over the one person who knows her unfiltered truth could prove disastrous. The most powerful statement Trevor Engelson ever made wasn't a tell-all interview or scathing memoir. It was his silence. By refusing to play along, he inadvertently exposed what Meghan fears most, that a polished origin story may not withstand scrutiny. The same woman who famously declared, "I've moved on," now finds herself pulled back into a past she can't fully escape. And in that contradiction lies the unraveling of a most carefully maintained illusion.
What kind of stuff would he say? When you're with someone that long, you got to have some good things to say. Like, I can't imagine it's all bad. Why would you have been friends and together for 7 years? If anything, I think there'd be interesting to get some tells as to why it all ended. Maybe it was mutual. Who knows?
Reports suggest Meghan has now resorted to pleading with the very man she once walked away from, begging him to maintain his silence. This sudden desperation raises troubling questions. Why the urgent need to suppress discussion if there's genuinely nothing concealed? Trevor's refusal to comply didn't merely damage a carefully constructed narrative. It revealed a far more significant vulnerability. The real threat to Meghan's image isn't fabricated tabloid stories, but rather the unspoken truths known by those she's discarded along her path to prominence. The ex-husband she abruptly left, former friends who remained quiet, estranged family members, and lingering unanswered questions, these represent the true dangers to her carefully crafted persona. Her entire brand, built upon strategic reinvention and meticulous image control, now faces its most serious challenge. The foundation appears increasingly unstable as those from her past remain unwilling to corroborate her preferred version of events. What was once dismissed as conspiracy theory now gains credibility through the simple act of former associates refusing to participate in maintaining the illusion. The empire of perception Meghan painstakingly built now trembles as the unvarnished truth threatens to emerge from those who knew her before the carefully constructed royal fairy tale began.
I mean, Harry around, similarly timed. Could that have been happening at the same time where she bagged herself a bigger fish? That would not surprise me at all. And if anything, him admitting that would be telling. And I think I feel like there must be a way for him to at least get that out there if he really wanted to. I feel like he would have already done it. I feel like you were not.
This time, it's not the royal family or the media driving the scrutiny. It's the undeniable weight of the truth itself. Because when you spend years rewriting your own narrative, reality has a way of catching up. And when it does, the fallout is impossible to contain. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think Trevor Engelson knows? Is his silence a gesture of respect, or is it merely the quiet before a wave of revelations? Can Meghan's meticulously crafted image survive as a foundation crumbles beneath it? Could this be the moment her carefully maintained facade finally shatters? Share your thoughts, because this isn't just about Meghan and Trevor. It's about the world finally questioning the fairy tale we've been sold. The real story isn't ending. It's just getting started. Stay tuned,